Welcome to UNSECURITY, FR Secure's weekly radio show where we take an inside look at hacking, breaches, best practices, and all things you need to know to improve your information security practices. Here's your host, CEO Evan Francine.
All right, let's do this. I'm Evan Francine. It's Monday, September 30th, and this is episode 47 of the UNSECURITY podcast. My guy, Brad and I, it's like that rhymes. I'm a poet. Yeah. I didn't know it. Is here with me. Hey, Brad.
Good morning. You are an author, so should be surprising.
Ooh, yeah.
There you go. That's what it is.
I should let that go to my head. No, probably not.
Yeah, I don't think that's you.
All right. No. You probably read in the show notes, lots of things going on. Last week you were out with our senior management team. We affectionately call you the SMT, and you were doing some offsite stuff. And I was, I can't remember who I was talking to, but I was giving them credit because one of our core values here is to work hard, play hard. I know you guys do that when you're offsite. Tell me about what you guys were doing.
Yeah, just, planning. No,
playing.
Kind of, Q4 of this year, are we set for what we expect to come in? Setting, longer term 2020 goals, expectations, all that. And then we were up north and at a cabin, and we did some fishing and caught a bunch of pike. Cool. Oscar caught a couple bass.
Nice.
So pike are fun to catch, but I hate them. Slimy little
sons of
yeah. But no, it was good. Just sitting around the campfire and kind of BSing and having some fun.
That's cool, man. Well, you probably saw in the show notes too, and we were just talking before the show started. My life just seems like it's all sort of out of sorts right now.
Just a little chaos.
Yeah. A couple of weeks ago I was in Bulgaria. My wife was in China for the last 10 days, and she got back into town on Saturday. So her sleep is all off. Just about kind of the same time my sleep was getting right. And then in the middle of this, I've been a smoker for 30 years. I decided I was going to quit on Wednesday, and my wife quit 11 days ago. So We're both just angry. And
I bet that was fun for her to quit and then be like 12 or 13 hours off.
Yeah. Yeah. So everything's just wonky right now. And we're heading out, tomorrow, I think.
Yeah.
For some roadshow stuff. But, one of the things, so good SMT meeting.
Yeah, very good.
Do you know that that nicotine is also, it like helps you concentrate? So I had 30 years of that. And so now I don't, and now I'm not going to concentrate.
It's okay. I told, the SMT, they're like, okay, what are your plans for 2020? I was like, I've been hanging around Evan too much. I'm just going to wing it. He needs a plan. They didn't like that. Renee particularly was not impressed.
Yeah, I know. I wonder why. Winging it has gotten me by this long, and built one successful company and building another, and just wing it. Go with the flow. But that doesn't work for everybody.
No.
All right. So late last week, we have the topics for today is I wanted to get back and talk about fundamentals. And I know that that's not a sexy thing. People are like, yeah, I get it. It's basics. And everybody nods their heads. Everybody gets it. But I'm tired of it not happening.
I was going to say, we keep seeing it. Yeah, we're doing the fundamental. No.
Right.
It's far too many people are not doing them.
I mean, yeah. So we'll talk about that because there was one meeting in particular that, happened towards the end of last week, which I thought was interesting, and I'd like to get your take on it. And then it's really kind of a key thing, so it'll be a good segue into this roadshow thing we keep talking about. And then also had a really good meeting on Friday in the morning with some cool people to talk about, security things with parents and kids.
Yeah.
So anyway, I had this discussion, and I can't say the name of the company or the person because I don't like to out people.
Yeah.
I mean, I would do it more if they were like sitting here and I was talking to them face to face and they knew that we were going to have this debate or whatever.
Yeah, you don't want to throw someone under the bus.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not like I wouldn't debate. Well, I did debate it in the meeting, but anyway, there's this big organization, very, very important. And we had a meeting on Friday, and this person, knew all the acronyms, NIST, CSF, COBIT, blah, blah, blah,
right.
just throwing around things. Mentioned, all sorts of people that he knows in this industry. If I threw out their names, you would know exactly who I'm talking about. And so we sit down and I'm just there to talk about where you're at, man.
Right.
And where you should go. And, it's good to be a VCSO because you get to steal all these ideas from people. And,
right.
And so we sit down and, he mentions, he was interested in our VCSO practice. So I was telling him sort of how we do it. And I said, it's the same way, almost if you hired me off the streets, I would start with some sort of an assessment to sort of understand where you're at.
So what am I working with?
Exactly. And he said, well, we've already done that. I'm like, okay, well then tell me about how that worked. And he goes, well, 2 years ago, we did this assessment. Right? Now,
so you're doing it again this year.
Well, yeah. So 2 years ago, they did an assessment with this organization. And he said, and so we've been spending time building our security program. We feel really good about it. We basically, we know what we're doing. We don't need any advice. I'm like, okay. And then he says, and now we're doing another assessment with another company.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I'm like, well, okay, that's cool. But there was this just like, we have the fundamentals down is sort of what he was telling me. And I was like, okay, well, tell me, what that means.
Right.
And so one of the questions I'd asked him was, I said, okay, well, tell me the current state of your security program. And that was where things kind of stalled. And then things got off the rails pretty quickly.
It's good.
I know. Well, yeah. And I was like, well,
define good.
Yeah. I was like, because he was telling me that, they can quantify, things. And I was like, okay, well, quantify to me means measure. So I was like, well, quantify your security program for me.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you at? And we just had this sort of long debate. And I think and then he was also, talking about cybersecurity and information security, like they were synonymous terms,
Yeah. You see that all the time too.
I know. And I get it because it sells, right?
Well,
Cybersecurity is sexier. It's like one less syllable too. I think information, cyber, two.
Wow.
2 less syllables.
Well,
it's easier to say.
We are in a instant gratification society. So, that's those 2 syllables.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think part of it also is the marketing push behind cyber, right? From all these different vendors. And so people have just associated the two as being synonymous, and they are not. Cyber is part of information security.
And I wouldn't get so bent about that other than the fact that, you and I have been in this industry for a long time. We've fought so hard to get this as a business issue, right? Mm-hmm. Information security is a business issue. It's not a technology issue.
And it's almost backsliding.
Well, it is backsliding because, and I'm writing a thing now about, the importance of language. And we started off, well, you're an author, joking around, but, words do matter. They carry weight. And so when you look at the meaning of cyber is of or pertaining to computers. Right. Right. Which pushes us right back into the same crappy spot we were, thinking this is an IT issue.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I had some things for us to discuss just in fundamentals, and hopefully people that, we constantly have to remind ourselves of the fundamentals. So the first question I had was, what is information security? And I've asked this question 1 trillion times, it seems like, but I keep getting answers all over the place. So you're going to laugh.
I know. I'm trying to think of, it's too early. I was going to try and come up with some sort of a smart ass answer for it, but I can't come up with one. It's too early.
Because we're all information security people, right?
Right.
We're in this industry. Should we not have a common definition of what information security is?
Yeah, I mean, I know what ours is, right? Yeah, I think we're on the same page. It's protecting confidentiality, integrity, and availability of your data through
Right.
use of physical, administrative, physical, and technical controls.
Right.
Boom, done.
Yeah, true. And so another thing in that definition is managing risk.
Yep.
Right. It's not eliminating risk. It's managing risk.
Right. Well, we can eliminate risk. I do use your line all the time because we get asked, how do I eliminate risk? Or, how do I
What's the
get rid of
biggest
it?
thing I can do to reduce it?
If you don't want any risk, close.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you will have risk. Fire everyone and go home. You don't have any risk.
Right. And these are just basic fundamentals, right? The definition of information security. So the important part, and we've always driven home the CIA piece, right? So
Right.
When you get to that part, everybody is like rolling their eyes like, yeah, I got it. It's like, okay, but you focus so much of your time and money and effort on protecting confidentiality that you would think that's the end all be all.
Right.
But then you also, part of our definition is administrative, physical, and technical controls. And people also agree to that, yet you look at their programs and they're overemphasized on technology.
Yeah.
They treat it like it's an IT issue. It's still reporting to the CIO. It's still not considered as a part of any other business risk that, you would consider at the board.
Right.
So it's one thing to say it. It's another thing to do it.
Right. Yeah. And we hear, that's kind of, I think, one of our big skills as a group is kind of seeing through people saying things. They say the one thing and then it's not how it is. And then they argue with us and it's like, but
Right.
You say this, but here's what you're doing. So tell me how those align.
Right. And so this was, going back to that discussion on Friday from somebody who's been around for a while, right? I mean, it's not like this person is new to information security. And so, but he called his program the cybersecurity program. So I was just looking for clarification in your
yeah. If I hear that, it's a technical
issue?
program.
Right. Is it truly an IT issue, or do you view it as like being across the entire, spectrum? Right. And he's like, well, it's the entire spectrum. I'm like, okay, well then great. Let's start from the top. What does the board get in terms of information about, information security or cyber security, as you call it? And it's like, well, we're working on that. Okay, well, that's pretty damn important for a fundamental before you start going off chasing, flashy lights.
Yeah.
Let's talk about governance. Do you have some sort of a committee established? I mean, who is running this thing?
He is.
Yeah, basically. So
there is no committee. It's me.
So one fundamental is, what is information security? And then another fundamental question that I asked him was, who here is ultimately responsible for information security? Mm-hmm. And that's basically what I got. Well, I guess it'd be me. Well, that's the wrong answer.
I guess. First of all, I guess it would be me means that it's not defined.
See, you've been working around lawyers too much. You pick up on those words.
Well, it's like, legitimate words matter, right? Like,
I'm telling you,
if something were to happen and he answered that, he's gonna get skewered. And I have no idea. I honestly, I don't know who you're talking about. I don't know the company, right? I don't have any of the background information.
You could look at my calendar and find out.
I could, but I'm just saying, just so the listeners know, I don't know, right? It's not like I have any sort of background on this. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to know those things to run a successful program.
I mean, these are fundamentals.
Is this defined in a job description, in a security committee charter? I guess I am. So if something goes wrong, what's his argument going to be? Well, it wasn't defined, right? Or not necessarily, right? But that opportunity exists.
Absolutely. And so we did play that out a little bit. We played through sort of that assumed breach sort of thing. Okay, let's talk about this, because there's a couple things. One, I said ultimately. So I meant, at the end of the day, when the house of cards collapses, who's left? So ultimately it's the board, right? Mm-hmm. It's executive management, of which he may be a part of, but it can't be the person who's ultimately responsible for information security. and the word I guess, certainly. Because, because in that discussion, I had also picked up on I guess. And so I was like, what do you have defined? I mean, what are the roles and responsibilities? Who is doing what?
And it's funny. That's the part that people hate the most.
Right.
Is defining that stuff, having this stuff written out. Because I think for two reasons. A, it's not sexy. It's not fun.
Right.
But also now there's accountability.
Yeah.
And it feels like maybe they in general, people would prefer to have that kind of that wiggle room.
Right. Well, these are fundamentals, right? These are the basics.
Right.
Of information security. So it's great that you can go pen test the crap out of something and find an exploit and whatever and do all kinds of cool things. Those are important things. But without the foundation, without the fundamentals, without mastering those, all the rest of it becomes lipstick on a pig, right?
Right. Right.
So, so as we were sitting there talking, where he was starting his discussion was really on lipstick on a pig stuff, right? Great. I'm super impressed that you know all these letters and know what they mean. But fundamentally, what does your security program look like, and is it functioning? And it's not.
It was I don't want to say cherry picking, but it is. It's almost cherry picking the sexy, fun stuff, right? The pen testing, the flashy lights, we've got the SIM and the IDS, IPS, and all these toys, as it were.
Right.
But you don't have any governance around it. You don't have any defined processes around it. Well, how do you know it's the same every time? How do you know you're getting the right things?
Well, and you and I have been in security long enough to know that that if something is insecure at the core, no matter what you do, it will be insecure, right? So you can put all kinds of dressing on it and make it look as pretty as you possibly can, but at the end of the day, it's still a pig.
If everybody's a domain admin, it doesn't matter what tools you have in place.
And how many incidents have we responded to where this has been the case, right?
There's a reason I use that exact example.
Right? I mean, they've got flashy lights. They've got all the things. They've spent tons of money, yet they have a breach and nobody knows what the hell is going on. And you look at it and say that this is almost indefensible. Right. Because you didn't follow fundamental best practices on anything. Right. And so that's why the fundamentals are so important. And that's why, I've focused most of my career on trying to master those. Master the fundamentals and then go off and, specialize in something different.
Yeah. And I think I would say we've gotten a couple of customers that have been working that are beyond kind of on a 1 to 5 or 1 to 10 scale, kind of beyond that 5 to 7 range. 95%, 99% of who we work with is in the 0 to 5. Right. Like it's just so common.
It really is. And so, so the definition of information security, just for people, again, and drill it into your heads, right? It's managing risk to information confidentiality, integrity, and availability using administrative, physical, and technical controls. That's it. Always keep that in mind and always be prepared to share it, right? Yeah. I mean, when executive management asks, hey, what is information security? You keep saying compliance and security are different. Tell me how they're different. Have defensible answers to all those things, and you'll start to drive your program forward.
I use that all the time. People call in for compliance purposes. I'm like, well, here's how we're different. Right. We will get you to compliance by doing security the right way.
Exactly.
Let's do security properly, and compliance is easy.
Right. It doesn't work the other way around.
No, if you do compliance only, that does not equal security.
Right. And you've always got the stories, things that you can share, like on administrative controls. One of the things I say, and you say it, it's easier to go through your secretary than your firewall.
Oh, yeah.
Period. That's just, 99, you read studies varying from 90 to 99% of all breaches have a human element to it. Right? Whether it was a phishing attack, whether somebody, whatever.
Yeah, the phone call.
Password. Yeah. Yep. And then on physical controls, it doesn't really matter how good your firewall works if I steal your server.
Right. Yeah. Walk in and sit down at someone's computer.
Right.
Or take papers off a printer.
Right.
Like there's a lot of ways that people don't realize.
And just because you moved all your data assets and your data center is in the cloud, that does reduce risk somewhat on the physical side. But you still have, usually open connectivity from your network to,
right.
I mean, there's
Again,
something.
If I can sit down at someone's machine without them realizing it,
Yeah.
I mean, you can ask our tech services team, they only need 20, 30 seconds.
Right.
And then everything that happens on that network is theirs.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't take long.
No, it really doesn't. All right. So that's information security. So the next question, as a fundamental, is what is risk?
A board game.
It's kind of a fun board game.
No, that's not the...
Well,
okay.
What you said is true.
Technically correct.
That is correct. Yeah. So risk is likelihood and impact.
Yes.
Right. And yet people use, and likelihood and impact are functions of vulnerabilities and threats. Right?
Yes.
So you have a weakness, which is a vulnerability. A threat is something that could compromise or exploit that vulnerability or weakness, leading to a likelihood of this happening in the impact if it did, right?
Yes.
So you have these things, and so that's risk. And so, but everybody throws around this risk word all the time, but oftentimes you'll find that they're referring to a vulnerability only as a risk. So you look at CVSS scores in a vulnerability scan, and you'll say, well, that's our risk, or this is our risk scores.
Right.
Different.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's some element of that there, but
yeah,
you're scoring vulnerabilities, not
the
taking threats.
Yeah, right. It's like if you have five mediums at a 5 each, is your score 25? Is that more risk than a single 10 with a known exploit?
Right.
Well, I mean, if you look at your score of CVSS, if you only do that 10 versus 25, you go, oh, it's 25 is a bigger no.
Right.
You have to look at the whole picture.
Exactly. And I think one of the and I've said this before, one of the easiest ways to pick out either a poor or maybe a novice CISO is their inability to put risk into context. They can find a risk in their security program and be like, oh my God, that's the biggest problem ever when they're not taking into account the entire security program.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You keep chasing these rabbit holes.
I mean, we just went through this internally with our, what are all the risks and threats and the impacts and scoring, just kind of as part of that business impact analysis.
Right.
And I don't know, I think it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Right? Like, get to argue a little bit around.
Well, this is our specialty, right?
I know.
You and me, we're different.
It was, yeah. Well, I had to help from, like Lori and some of the other senior. She did a lot of the work, but yeah, it's fun to go through. I think, and people maybe don't realize that to say, here they think hacking, right? And that's about it. Well, okay. What about fires? What about, water, main breaking or all these other things that you don't consider because you're thinking cyber only, right? Only the technical piece.
Right. Or even in a penetration test, you have a penetration test where, maybe a pen tester works 30, 40 hours or 20 hours, to find a vulnerability that they then exploit. And so, you think, oh my God, we got to close that right away. That's like, well, take into account, threat and vulnerability. What would the impact be if somebody did actually exploit that? And what's the likelihood that it will actually be exploited? Yes, it's a risk. Nobody's going to debate that, but to what degree of risk is a whole nother discussion.
Right. Yeah. What did they have to do to get in? And, is that realistic? And he spent 35 hours. I mean, honestly, if you're going to be attacked for that amount of time, they're going to find something.
Exactly. And so the key to our definition in information security is risk is we manage risk. We don't eliminate risk. Right. So it's always got to be a degree, right? And so the thing about security is it's always relative. Where am I at on a scale? Put yourself on a scale. And so one of the most common scales that we see is CMMI, right? The capability maturity model.
Yeah.
Which is fine, but it's not the same as risk.
Right.
Again.
It's kind of like how well do we have processes in place and documentation for, like, I kind of see it like if someone's going to leave, if we have to replace a team member, what's the impact to the organization? Do we have the things in place for someone else to step in? Right. That doesn't, yes, that's part of risk. There's obviously risk involved with that, but that's not.
Well, I always view like maturity as being a measurement of vulnerability. You know what I mean? So like if a control is put in at 5, right, it's optimized, there's really no weakness in that control.
Right.
Whereas if you go all the way to the other side, at an ad hoc or initial at 0 or 1, it's full weakness, right? So then you take into account, okay, what's the threat to this thing, this control? And that gives you kind of a risk rating. Yeah. So if you were going to use CMMI, in my opinion, it would be use it as a measurement of vulnerability, and you can still measure your security program if that's what you choose to, but it's not the same definition.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I think we have the kind of the same, slightly different look on that, but it's at the end of the day, it's really the same thing. It's not a measure of risk.
Yeah. So information and risk, those are two things that as an information security person and even a pen tester, anybody who works in information security should have those two definitions pretty well mastered, right? And how many, if you were to estimate, how many breaches do you see or do we see where if somebody had just followed the fundamentals, we wouldn't be investigating this breach?
Most of them, but I think it's also, I guess you have to kind of go and say, like, how long are you going to give them in terms of where they're at to follow that?
Right.
Ideally, you would be able to prevent almost all of them. There are going to be some you can't prevent. That's just, that's the unfortunate reality. But things like, having a good asset inventory and having, the fundamentals, you could prevent a fair number. Good network segmentation.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. All right. So here's another question I had. If I hire you to do, in quotes, information security for me, what is the first thing you would do?
I've said this, even going back to my more IT days, is I basically, take an inventory of what am I working with, right? It's that risk assessment from a security standpoint or an inventory. What do we have in place? What tools, technologies, what's there?
Right.
So until I know what I'm working with, what the landscape looks like, I can't tell you.
Right. So you'd have to start with some sort of an assessment, right? Okay. And I agree. I can't, it's like taking your car into the mechanic, right? They have to do a diagnosis. I have no idea where I should focus my time, where I should focus my energy. And so I think and that's prudent. And you see that a friend of mine works at a Fortune, I don't know, I guess it'd be Fortune 500, and they just got a new CIO. And that CIO came in, and that's the first thing they're doing, right? This in-depth assessment of what he's working with.
It's smart. Well, you're coming in typically for a reason, whether it's someone else left or they were fired or whatever. No offense to anyone out there, I'm not going to trust somebody else's work if it's my job on the line.
Sure.
Right? I want to know exactly what's going on, and then you can make those decisions.
Right. And I might trust somebody else's work if it was 1, if it was current, 2, if it was relevant, and 3, if I understood it.
Yeah.
So if I looked at another,
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. If I looked at another person's assessment, okay, this seems like
they
smart.
did it right before they left and went to a better job. Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point.
But because that's, the only way, I can't imagine building a security program without that.
Well, how do you prioritize what to do if you don't know what's out there?
Right. So it just seems very fundamental. And I know that, risk assessments get a bad rap, but I love them because they tell me what the hell is wrong.
Yeah.
Where I should go.
I think a lot of times you have a gut feel, right? And you can, kind of look and see and talk to people and get a good idea, but if nothing else, it's validation.
Right. There would be the obvious things like, we don't have any firewalls. Okay. Well, I don't need an assessment to tell you know what I mean? But that's an obvious one, but, yeah. So, so then stating that, what percentage of SMBs do you think in our industry, or in industry in general, SMBs meaning 1,000 employees and less, have done that, a security assessment, a risk assessment?
Man.
Just guess.
15%, give or take?
I think that's probably about right. According to the math, working it backwards from, how big that market is.
Yeah.
I estimated about 90% of companies didn't. So pretty close to what you're thinking.
Yeah. I think I'm just going off of the number of companies we talked to that have never done it versus done it either with us or someone else.
Right. So there's a lot of confusion, I think, in SMBs. And the challenge here is 3.1 million SMBs in the United States, meaning 1,000 employees and less. There's only 500 Fortune 500s.
Right.
And they have pretty good security programs, most of them.
Right.
And where they don't, where they're missing in the fundamentals, they put so much lipstick on that pig that, the return on investment for an attacker is fairly low because they still have to get, it's difficult.
Right.
Whereas you have the rest of the industry, which is most by far, is stuck.
I mean, the number of breaches that have, some sort of like any or equivalent, RDP published to the internet, these easy to find things that they haven't done.
Right.
Yeah, that's who the attackers are going after.
Yeah. So, we have to do something about that. And it's not rocket science. You don't have to be super awesome expert security person to understand, really the fundamentals, the basics of information security. It'd be the same way. I mean, take the way you were to protect your physical assets, right? And just think of them digitally. That's one place you can start. I would start with an inventory. Like if I had, 10 gold bars that I needed to protect, I would make sure I counted, I have 10 gold bars, that I need to protect. And I would then lock them up. I would control access. I would not share access to where my 10 gold bars are stored. You know what I mean? I would just.
It's a really good analogy.
Yeah. I mean, so you don't have to, you just have to use logic. You just have to think it through. And I would also do an assessment. I mean, if I had 10 gold bars, I would want to know what's the crime rate in this area? What are the potential threats? Do I live next door to a prison?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. It's funny how many people don't even consider that.
No. Well, and I think one of the reasons is life gets so damn complex.
Yeah.
I was talking on, and this is I guess we can skip down to the parents and kids discussion and then come back up to the roadshow discussion. But, because I'm kind of done ranting on fundamentals and the basics. But complexity really is, the enemy. It's always been the enemy. The more complex we make our lives, the more difficult it gets. And so last week, I had a discussion with two awesome people from Minnetonka School District, which is my alma mater, by the way.
Yep.
Second, and you have kids there.
Yep.
My the second largest school district in the state of Minnesota.
Yeah, second to
Wayzata, I believe, in terms of enrollment, I think. And I'm talking like the entire district. But anyway, these two guys, Mike Dronin, he's the senior director of technology, or executive director of technology, and then Dave Eisenman, the director of instructional technology, and then Ryan Cloutier, who we know from this show.
I was bummed I couldn't make that, but I was off doing business stuff.
Well, we'll definitely have another one. Mike brought in 4 pounds of bacon.
That's awesome.
I mean, like the good thick kind. And so I ate on Saturday. I ate 3 pounds of bacon. It wasn't good.
Your wife got home and was like, "I just got 1 pound. I don't know."
Well, the other pound, I think I ate throughout the rest of the day, and then Lydia had some too. My daughter.
That's funny.
Yeah. But we had this discussion. So the reason why we were meeting was we were trying to figure out, how to address, and I know that there are tons of resources out there, but how to address parents and kids, just that whole family information security piece.
Yeah.
Not just security, but also privacy and also safety. And there's a lot of things kind of coming together at the same time here. One of the resources there is Share Together. And I know we're working on kind of some child sex trafficking sort of things. And then we're trying to create, eventually we'll create an S2 teen to go into the SecurityStudio platform so that, teenagers, we can do assessments, they can do assessments, and somehow we can share it appropriately, right? You have to gamify it, I think, and you'll have to make it almost like socially engineer them a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Coax them into giving you true answers as opposed to what.
Yeah. You have to be good about that because they're, I think, naturally skeptic.
Yeah.
Of that, and
that's why the reason why I wanted to bring this group together, and I think we'll expand the group. We'll start including more people and getting more ideas.
I know Wayzata has expressed some interest in being involved as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the more the better.
Oh, I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
So we had this discussion, and I think it was really an amazing meeting. We did spend 2 hours together. We talked about a bunch of different things. Dave Eisenman is sort of a leader in this area at Minnetonka. So he shared some good resources. One of those is Common Sense Media. And all these links are in our show notes.
Yeah, we should add, I was looking through that. We should also add the one for ISC Squared's, the IamCybersafe.org. They've got good parent, senior citizen, and children.
Yeah.
So another good place for parents to go to get some
awesome
free information.
So I think what we'll do is we'll take kind of our takeaway was to take what we think is the best sort of guidance from each of these. So Common Sense Media, the American Academy of Pediatrics, we'll add the ISC Squared one, and then the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, has good resources. And then Share Together. Try to take kind of all this together and try to create like a best in breed, but then make it sort of some way to like just bring all these together rather than having 5-6 different ones. We have just one.
Well, and I just did a parent's presentation, right? And that was one of the things that came out of it is, do you have anything for parents that are these as digital immigrants?
Right.
How do I secure my Wi-Fi? How do I do these things that, for us in the industry, it's kind of like second nature. We forget people don't know how to do it. It's intimidating, right? So, putting something together for the parents, I think will help teens. And then how do we get the teenagers to go through and do this?
Right. And so much of this too is just starting the conversation. I can only imagine how many parents don't know or never even have a discussion with their kids.
Right.
About what they're doing. And I use the story of, when I was a kid, when I was a kid, my dad kept his Playboy magazines on the top shelf of his closet.
Right.
Nowadays,
it's just,
that's not what dads do.
Right.
And kids are the number, I think the largest consumer of online pornography is like 12-year-old boys. Right?
I mean, not surprising, but just still shocking to hear.
Talking to my 14-year-old daughter, and I guess it's really popular now to be asking each other to send nudes. That's kind of the thing. And it's like, what? I'm sorry. I mean, when we were kids, we didn't do that.
No.
Right? There was no way for me to send nudes,
right,
and receive nudes from girls.
Right. Yeah.
So things are much, much different. And I think parents don't know. And I think parents sometimes feel intimidated to even ask.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I think it's a little bit of that ignorance is bliss. I don't know. What I don't know can't hurt me type of thought, and that's not the case.
No, it does hurt your kids. Your kids are suffering for this.
Yeah.
And I think I read another study somewhere that said the suicide rate in teenage girls has doubled since the advent of the smartphone.
Yeah,
something
social
like that.
media has come out. It's been really bad.
Right. And so we were talking about all these things, and we're talking about how, you just get bombarded from all angles, right?
Mm-hmm.
You get...
Well, people get the anonymity, and they think they can say whatever, no matter how hateful or hurtful it is.
Well, and parents are overwhelmed too, right? I mean, my daughter this last weekend, I think it was Friday, she we were at Target, and we walked by Alexa. She goes, "We should get Alexa." I'm like, "Hell no."
Right.
She goes, "Well, why not? He does all this cool stuff and everything like that." And I go, "Because I have privacy concerns, honey."
Yeah.
She's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Alexa is listening,
Right.
to our conversations, to the things that happen in our home." And she's like, "That's only if you say Alexa." And I'm like, "How do you think it hears you saying Alexa?"
Right. Now you can get Alexa car, so,
right.
In the car even, you can't get away.
Right. And so I have this privacy concern, but then I also have this complexity concern, right?
Right.
My life is already complex enough. I don't want to add more.
Right.
I don't want to add more technology, more things that I have to secure, more things I have to think about, more things I have to potentially worry about.
Mm-hmm.
More things I need to patch, more.
I know.
I mean, it's just like I already have to patch my TV.
It was yeah, I'm with you. Keep it simple.
So, so parents are getting bombarded with all this stuff, and then kids are like playing Fortnite.
Right.
There's TikTok. There's Instagram. There's
and even with like one of the parents was saying like Roblox or Minecraft or something. They had a skin where their young kids that were like first grade were talking about it was Fortnite in this what should be a relatively safe game. Mm-hmm. They're like, oh, we just go in here and here's how we get to it, and it's basically Fortnite at that point, skinned over that. Yeah, and they were like, well, what is this? Right. So,
and listen in. I mean, if you're a parent, listen in on some of the conversations,
right,
that kids have on chat in their games. A lot of times they'll do it in a room where they're off somewhere. Right. They're oftentimes. Excuse me. Yeah. Kids aren't playing their video games in the living room in plain sight,
right,
of parents, and so they go into some room somewhere.
Yeah,
But
our rule is door open,
right? And more parents need to sort of learn some of these skills, and we need to somehow bridge the gap of just communications, right? How do you safely communicate about security things at the dinner table? Assuming you eat dinner at the dinner table. I mean, it seems like parents don't do that nearly as much as we used to either. But just having these conversations, because it's our job to love our kids. It's our job to raise our kids well. It's our job to protect them from sexual crap. I mean, but we have to be equipped.
Yeah.
To do that.
Yeah, and it's tough to be equipped if you don't understand it yourself.
Totally true, man. And things move so damn fast, right? I mean, there's new things hitting the market. I mean, what's going to come out this Christmas?
Oh, I don't know.
I mean, what sort of things will be like the new things on the market? It'd be like, oh God, I have to.
It's like, here we go again.
Because as a parent, sometimes too, we feel like we're stuck. Right, we don't want to deprive our kids with all the cool things that all the rest of the kids are playing with.
Well, and especially with some of the social media, they get excluded if they don't have it. That's a whole nother challenge.
We talked about a story in that meeting on Friday about a kid who got ostracized, basically, because they weren't on social media.
I mean, it started happening to my daughter with Instagram. And her friends had had it before they were 13, which that's another issue we have to talk about.
Right.
But I told her you can't get it till you're 13, and it was tough on her. And she's really good about what she puts on there and being smart, almost like she does listen. She'll never admit it, but she does listen. But yeah, it's a tough thing to do as a parent to say, hey, no, you're not old enough yet.
Right.
But you got to do it. Set some boundaries.
Right. And it would be a lot easier, or not easier, it'd be a lot more effective, I think, if all parents were in this kind of together. Right. Right.
Others I'm going to
instead of the norm being, I get to do whatever I want to do in my bedroom with my iPad every night. Instead of that being the norm,
right?
Let's make it the exception,
right?
And then when you see that or hear about that stuff, we can all come around and sort of educate. I mean, we just have to flip the script on this, which is going to take a huge, huge effort. But that's why working with Common Sense Media, working with AAP, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the ISC Squared. Working with, Minnetonka School District, probably eventually Wayzata School District, maybe some national players, you, me, let's all hear voices and figure out ideas on how we can address this, because it's our future, man. I mean, this is going to get nasty.
Well, and going to that.
It already is nasty.
Yeah. But with all the parents I've talked to, they universally want to know more.
Yeah.
They don't know where to go, what to do. And, you go and speak to them and it's like, they're so thankful for what I'm considering just routine basic stuff. And they're like, this is eye-opening. I had no idea. I think parents in general as a whole want to know more and do the right thing. They just don't know where to go. What should they do? Right.
And I mean, you always have some certain percentage of people who are just bad parents.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that'll never change.
Right. But I think good parents do want to do something about this.
The vast majority do.
And what I don't want people to think is there are good parents who don't know. That doesn't make them a bad parent.
No, not at all.
We need to somehow reach across and give them the resources.
I'd say it almost is the same as within a business, right? If you're security in the business and you're not getting your message across, that's on you, not on them. Exactly. You need to figure out where's that disconnect. So it kind of, I think, is the same. Mm-hmm. We failed there.
Right. And we were talking, like Minnetonka is one of those school districts that does reach out to parents. And they do have...
No, they do. I'll speak from experience that we do get stuff.
But that they're the exception.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
To the rule, right? Most, like a vast majority of school districts are not like Minnetonka.
And I've talked to some, principals and others at other districts, and I think, again, same thing. Where can I get some information? What can I be doing? It's not that there's not a lack of desire.
Yeah.
It's just a lack of what?
Well, and I was talking to my daughter, after I had my meeting on Friday, when I got home, I was like, hey, she goes to a different school district. And I asked her, what kind of instruction do you get on sort of responsible use of, electronics, of iPhones and iPads? And she said, none. I'm like, and I said, well, I want to show you some things. So we talked about, some of these things that I had learned on Friday, some of these resources, like, because I hadn't heard of, believe it or not, Common Sense Media.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, that's cool. So I looked it up. All right, I'm going to share this with my daughter. Well, first I was going to find out if she got any of this, and she didn't. And I was like, okay, well, I'm glad we're having the talk then.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say I've been pretty impressed with the outreach from Minnetonka.
Yeah.
I haven't had any reason to.
But I think they lead.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. So that's that. Now let's go back.
We got to go talk about your roadshow.
Yeah. Yeah. So we it was formerly called Project Bacon. And I do mention again that Mike Dronin from Minnetonka brought me bacon.
That lasted apparently a day and a half.
I know. And I think I'm feeling it now. Between that and not smoking anymore. And I don't know. I think whatever. It's my problem.
I'm glad I'm not the one traveling with you.
I know John Harmon is, but
although John will put you in your place.
Yeah, John's a big dude. He'll handle himself just fine. But yeah, this week we leave for Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. So if you're in the Harrisburg area, reach out to us. Let's get some barbecue or something. Tell us where there is good barbecue.
Yeah.
Then I don't know. We can meet and we can talk security stuff. But we're going on the road show. Really, there's 2 points to the roadshow. One is at SecurityStudio, we built this platform,
Mm-hmm.
and now we're making it available for free.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a platform to really master the fundamentals, right? So there is an information security risk assessment module there it doesn't go deep into any one area of information security. There are tons of different types of risk assessments. This is a good fundamental risk assessment.
Right. It's intended to identify at a high level strengths and weaknesses for your security program.
Exactly.
Right? Then once you do that, dig in and really start to understand, what does that mean?
Yeah, I think it's a risk assessment that can be used and kind of meet you wherever you're at.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we want to hit is every one of those SMBs of the 90% who haven't done one, here's a free one.
Mm-hmm.
You can do it yourself. If you need help, we have a partner network that can help you, not gouge you, and not sell you something you don't need, but help you through this risk assessment so that you can build a good security program.
Or if you need that independent assessment for compliance or regulatory or whatever reason, we can help you with that. But
exactly,
I told people, when I started, I went through our assessment and kind of went, where has this been? Like, I would have killed to have this. I didn't know about it, different region and all that, but it's a good place to start.
Absolutely.
Right? It's going to let you identify, okay, where should I be focusing effort?
Yeah. And so we want to take that on the road. We, in this next release, which is due about the same time I'll be at B-Sides in Harrisburg, is completely free.
Is it this week? It's like this week, right?
This week. Yep.
Yeah.
I think Wednesday I'll be speaking at B-Sides in Harrisburg. And B-Sides, you can't sell things, right? And so that's why, one of the reasons why we made it free too, because I don't care about selling things, right? What I want you to do is follow the basics, get the fundamentals in place, and then master something.
Yeah. Well, I think we've talked about it, right? If you do the right thing, everything else will fall into place, right?
It will.
If you do things for the right reason, things tend to turn out pretty well for you.
Yeah, and I read another statistic too. It was like 80% of all SMBs that suffer a data breach end up not ever recovering.
No.
That's sad.
It's not, yeah. I mean, it's expensive to have this happen. I can see why.
So it's kind of our calling to go out and do this. So on the roadshow, we will be speaking every week. We're speaking at a new, different event this week. It's, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania B-Sides. And then we're meeting with partners. So other competitors to FR Secure, basically, that do assessments of their customers and saying, hey, give this away to your customers.
Mm-hmm.
And when they need help, it'll end up actually making more business for you, probably, because you'll reach a wider audience.
Right.
And you'll be providing better value. So that's really what the Roadshow is all about. I think John Harmon and I will be socializing this on our Twitter. So we'll be tweeting hashtag S2 Roadshow. I got to do this. Hashtag. Yeah, so we're excited. I think it's part of our mission, right? Our mission is to fix the broken industry. If we were just to sit here and just bitch and complain about people not getting the fundamentals correct and then not do anything about it,
it's
what good am I?
I think from the way I'm looking at it, the industry, there's a lot of money grab going on, right? And a lot of kind of just throwing money at things. This is very disruptive. Yeah. And in a good way.
I hope so.
And I think it's going to get some people's attention.
Good. And if any listeners here, go take your free S2. It's called the S2Org. That's the assessment, S2Org. There's also an S2 vendor, which is for vendor risk management. It's a small fee because you do have to pay for developers and such. And then there's the S2 team. I think the S2 team were ahead of the curve a little bit. So
yeah, that's been everybody I've talked to about that is like, oh,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
So it's go into that a little bit. It's basically your employees' personal risk score aggregated and anonymized. So you as an organization excuse me, can see,
Right.
like, hey, where's our employees' risk, right? Bad security hygiene at home, bad at work, good at home, good at work, right? So
You said that real well too. Yep,
like,
exactly.
Where should we be targeting training? So I think it's a really cool.
Yeah, I think so too.
Cool approach.
But so and that's the same thing that I offered for this security person on Friday. And so he agreed. He's like, "Yeah, I'll take free. Yeah, I'll take a free assessment." I'm like, "All right, good." And then at least now you'll have something that you can quantify information security risk, and you can master the fundamentals.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times it is eye-opening for people too, right? Mm-hmm. They think they've got the good program, and then you start going through. I mean, realistically, the full assessment is 600 and almost 700 questions.
Probably, yep.
It's like 684. Not that I
know,
but
683. I just removed.
Okay, there you go.
No, I'm just kidding.
That doesn't include scanning and recon. So, but anyway, I don't think people realize they look at like those, maybe like there's 40 subcategories, kind of, and that's about it.
Right.
They don't go 10 to 15 deep in each of those.
Right.
Well, no, you need to go
a little bit deeper.
A little deeper.
Yeah.
It's still not as deep as you can go by any means.
Right.
But
yeah,
it gives you a really good idea. And again, it's eye-opening for people.
Yeah, I agree. And for those, who use it for compliance, I think but before the end of October, we'll have compliance reporting built in.
Yeah, that'll be in this next release. I saw that as part of our SMT was to make sure that how they were doing it satisfied those needs.
That's pretty cool.
I won't lie, I was skeptical, but I was impressed with what they got done.
Well, in the hospital, take like hospitals, for instance, healthcare. Hospitals most of them are losing money.
Yeah, it's
or they're
really
operating
thin margins.
Yeah. And so if you can give them a free assessment that they can do that's quality, that'll hold up to OCR scrutiny, do it.
Oh, right? we've seen the OCR accept it. Now, they'll never endorse it, right? Government won't endorse, but they have absolutely accepted it as a remediation for a finding on not doing an enterprise-wide risk assessment.
Yeah, and I thought was another cool thing, and it came out this week, and I won't mention who, but school districts now are using the S2 score, which comes from the S2Org. They're using it for supporting their bond ratings.
Yeah, I see that one, right?
Yeah. I was like, damn cool, because then you're talking like they're saving hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars by protecting that bond rating.
And you've got, it's pretty common who does those ratings, but those companies are now going, oh, okay.
Right.
Like, I'm not guessing. It's the same with cyber insurance.
Yeah.
There's a easy to understand numerical risk score.
Right.
Oh, okay.
That isn't cyber, it's information security.
It is across the board.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. It's always encouraging to hear that too.
Yeah, and I'd like to see it used more in M&A work too, right? I mean,
I know.
Right?
We keep getting that where it's like, we just purchased this company. What should we do before we merge them? Or I'm like, oh, well.
You should have done an assessment before you bought them.
At least you haven't merged yet. At a minimum,
right?
Do these things.
Anyway. Yeah, so that's what the roadshow is all about. It's getting people on board with this thing. You know what I mean? And then there's even another piece to it, which is let's build a community around this. I don't think, in terms of the content, I think SecurityStudio should also open that up and share that with the community and receive,
I like your thought of kind of that Wikipedia or whatever. But, there's got to be qualifications to be involved.
Sure. Yep.
But I'm with you. I think the more people we can get giving feedback, the better, right? I mean, I think we've done a pretty good job.
Yeah.
But does that mean it's perfect? No.
Right.
And it always catches people off guard. They're like, well, what do you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
No. We can make it better.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
It's not like the questions are any sort of secret sauce.
Right.
It's look at the NIST CSF, look at the ISO standard, look at 853. Like, the controls are the controls.
Right.
There's other things that we weren't, that's where the magic happens.
Totally. So, on the roadshow, if you are an information security consulting company, if you're an IT company who wants to start doing information security assessments the right way, or either one of those or combination thereof, look us up and let's have a meeting while we're there so we can talk to you about it. Or if you're going to be at, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania B-Sides, let's meet up there. Because we want to get this community together on this thing. Yep. So it's all about that.
Yeah, we can't do it alone.
Nope. I can hardly get my pants on alone.
It's a miracle your house is standing.
It is a miracle my house is standing. All right, so on to some news. We've got 3 news stories today. I thought the first one caught my eye because I was like, yeah, duh.
All right.
This one comes from HelpNet Security, and it says, Rise of RDP as a Target Vector is the title of the article. Mm-hmm. And I saw it, and I was like, RDP's always been
What do you mean rise of?
Yeah, RDP's always been a damn target. I don't understand how it's been a rise, but, I mean, can the problem get worse? I don't know. So it's an interesting article. There's nothing eye-opening here because we've always known that RDP is a
we get the
critical attack vector.
Anytime we get the breach or whatever, and we're like, RDP was open to the internet, and like, how did it happen? Pretty confident,
right?
That's not going to be good.
I mean, if you absolutely have to have RDP open, multi-factor at a minimum. Ideally, you'd make somebody have to VPN in first with multi-factor and then RDP into a system. But just hanging RDP out there, first of all, it makes you a target, right? We know that there are active bots and scans going on all the time looking for 3389, as well as HTTPS and HTTP and SSH. I mean, those are just common ports that will be hit.
Right. Yeah, they're going to search these well-known, easy-to-exploit things.
And if you have, single-factor authentication, I hate to say it, but it's like at this point, you almost kind of deserve it. I mean, I hate to say that, but it's like single-factor authentication on anything on the internet is bad.
Yeah.
Especially an RDP server or OWA.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
I mean, you're just kind of asking for trouble.
Seriously. And so, and if you don't know, because I've asked this, how many times have we asked this? Asset management is one of those fundamentals. And I'll ask, have you scanned your entire IP address space looking for what ports you have open? And people say, no.
Well, not only that, we've had, I won't get into it. That's a whole nother,
right?
Another episode. Yeah.
So, because, if you've never done that before, if you have an IP address space.
If you have LDAP open to the internet,
please
turn
it off.
You're bad times.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen it happen over and over and over again. So anyway, if you didn't believe us, you can look at HelpNet Security and they'll tell you the same thing. All right. So the next news article I have is from eHacking News. Google takes down around 46 apps by Chinese developers from its Play Store. This one kind of caught my eye because, one, my wife was in China at the time that this article was written. And 46 apps by a Chinese developer. So it was a single developer called iHandy. Were taken from the Google Play Store. Google didn't provide any reasons for the sudden removal. The tools included various security, horoscope, selfie, health, and antivirus-related apps that were downloaded over 1 million times.
All I know is I was very happy that I don't have any of these and my daughters didn't have any.
Right?
It's like, whew.
So it turns out that some of these, I'm guessing, researchers discovered that all of these infected apps were put on the Play Store via distinct developer accounts. So there were some bad things with these apps.
Yeah.
They've taken down apps before. This isn't something new for Google, but I think what sort of stands out is that it was 46 apps from one
developer.
That's pretty big.
Yeah. There might be some sort of pattern there.
Right. And if you are an Android user, right, if you're a Droid user, you just need to practice a little bit more caution.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. There are some pretty good, endpoint protection tools for free, right? I know, Sophos and I think Trend Micro and some of those, they will scan and alert you. And I know I've downloaded some apps where I'm like, oh yeah, okay. And then it goes, hey, did you know it was going to do this? I'm like, ooh, no, I missed that. Just remove. All right. So have something out there to protect yourself a little bit better.
Yeah. And know that too. Like if you're a user and you lack sophistication on technology, the Android may not be the right thing for you.
Right.
You have to be a little more sophisticated in managing a Droid phone.
Yep.
And if you don't even know if you have a Droid phone, well, then you've got more issues.
Right.
If you're using a Samsung, that's Android.
Yep. If it's not an Apple,
there you go. If it's not an Apple,
it's Android at this point.
Yeah, because I think Microsoft has dropped all their.
Yeah, you might have an older one. Maybe you have a BlackBerry, but anyway, into the weeds.
Yeah, I hear you. So anyway, if you're using an Android, just follow some best practices. There's lots of different ones out there you can follow. Last one I've got is, speaking of
this is huge.
iOS, yeah. So Checkmate. This is GB Hackers on Security. Checkmate, and it's spelled CHECKM8, the number 8. Hacker published unpatchable jailbreak for millions of iOS devices from iOS 4S to iPhone X, or iPhone 4S to iPhone X more. Do you call that 10? I've always just called it the X.
X.
All right, I'm going with X because that's the letter.
I can't wait till we're like XII, XIV.
Well, yeah, my daughter and I were talking about, what are they going to do for 13? Nobody likes the number 13. Then you go X3.
Yeah, probably. X triple I.
Yeah, the 11 is out. My daughter and I went and looked at the 11s at the AT&T store last week.
Yeah.
I'm still using an older one.
I just got a new phone.
I'd use a flip phone if I could.
You can get the new Motorola Flip for the Android.
Yeah, I just don't want anything else on it. I don't want email.
Yeah, well, it's cool technology.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah. So,
this is really, I mean, there's no fix. It's a issue within the chip.
Yeah.
The fix is Apple's going to have to stop selling the older devices.
Yeah.
And stop using that chip. And that's about it.
Well, it jailbreaks the phone, but what's the, it's unpatchable boot ROM exploit, hundreds of millions of iOS devices. There's a published jailbreak guide, but do you have to, how do you get the exploit code onto the phone?
I was reading that, and I think there's that you have to have it connected to either a Mac or a Linux. There's a way to do it from there.
So this isn't going to be a jailbreak from
a
download.
Think so?
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I haven't read enough about it to know, but
because I think the people that
I'm sure we'll get lots of feedback on that. Right,
because as an iOS, I do use iOS, and I'm not terribly concerned about this.
Oh no, I don't think it's going to be. I think it's going to be more for the mod community more than anything.
Right.
It seems to be
they love it.
Yeah, that's been the background. I think as you start getting devices that are no longer supported, and although Apple does do a really good job supporting older devices, but yeah, you have devices that from a power standpoint are plenty strong and plenty powerful enough. They're just not supported or whatever. So now you have the opportunity to do some more with those devices.
Yeah. Yeah. It says the tool is compatible with Mac and Linux. So you do have to run it, local and be connected to jailbreak. Yeah, so it's a chip thing. I don't know if the iPhone...
It cannot be exploited remotely. You have to have physical access to the device. So, if I'm an iPhone user, I'm not really terribly concerned. I think, again, it's going to really be the mod community. It's almost like a feather in the guy's hat.
And they're happy as hell.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Because who doesn't want to... I mean, if you're in that community, who doesn't want to jailbreak iPhones? Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, what... I don't know if the 11... I didn't see if the 11 is part of it.
No, I think it stops at the 10.
Yeah.
It's with that... It's the A11 chip is the last one that used whatever the exploit was.
Yeah, so Apple may not even do anything about it. Just live with it. But those phones take a while to get out of the wild. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Oh, no. I think this is something that's going to be
there for a while.
5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Especially with the 10 just now having it.
All right. So we talked about a bunch of things, and we're going to wrap it up. So there you have it. I'll be checking in regularly from the road. So we have a mission, and I put the word damn it in my show notes with 2 M's, not the bad way.
Okay.
That makes it different. But stay tuned. Stay tuned to it. Hopefully you'll follow along, and hopefully we'll have great success, and we'll start getting people, sort of speaking the same language. We'll start helping people that need it. And thank you to our loyal listeners. Shout out to Kevin. Thank you for your tips and feedback last week. We are working on it. We know that we have some audio things we're going to make better. For the rest of you, send us your input or send us your feedback by email at unsecurity@protonmail.com. If you're a social type, socialize with us on Twitter. I'm at Evan Francine, and Brad is at Brad Nye. And that's all I've got. So have a great week.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the UNSECURITY podcast. We value our listeners and would love to hear from you. Give us your feedback by emailing us at unsecurity@protonmail.com. That's unsecurity@protonmail.com. Be sure to tune in next week to hear the latest insights from Brad and Evan.